Welcome to DeFi by Design, where we talk all things blockchain and cryptocurrency while striving to educate, empower, and enrich.
It's your boy Andy, and welcome back to the DeFi Slate YouTube channel. Smash the like button on this video, that really helps us out, and sit back and enjoy the content. Thank you very much.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the DeFi by Design podcast. Today, we are talking about Layer 2 and why I believe Layer 2 is just right around the corner in terms of massive adoption and development and narrative. We've kind of seen it slip between the cracks, if you will, over the last few months as teams have been building and building and building. And I think a lot of that is because Arbitrum and Optimism took forever to come out, and they could not hit their deadlines at all. And so the ETH community kind of shifted off into these other ecosystems where there was higher yields, lower fees, and just overall a better experience. But now we're kind of seeing that attention shift back. And one of the biggest reasons is because of who I have today on the podcast, which is Elena. She is the CEO and co-founder of MetisDAO, and they are an optimistic roll-up with a token already, and they are doing a whole lot of really interesting stuff on the Layer 2 front, really pushing the vision of Ethereum forward. So excited to learn more about Layer 2, optimistic roll-ups, and just kind of dive into what this whole Layer 2 summer is all about. So excited to chat today, Elena, and how are you?
I'm good, Andy. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here and talk about Layer 2s.
Yes, Layer 2s. So briefly, what was your entrance into DeFi, and what kind of sparked you to dive into creating a Layer 2 protocol for Ethereum?
So I've been in a space for a while, starting with my journey with 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃, creating a 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃, which is now an educational hub for women. We educate women online, giving them online courses, and as well we help them to build their businesses. So started the 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃s started with my friend Natalia Amelin. That was in 2016, and it just started as a meetup group for women because we wanted to share the knowledge that we have, because crypto and blockchain at that time was not widely known and accessible. So we just wanted to share this knowledge with the women. And as we progressed through our journey, we found lots of women wanted to build the businesses, but really they could not, because the developers are too expensive, it's the huge learning curve, then fees are too high, transactions are slow, so all that, and also like developers probably were the culprit in there, because how much blockchain developers cost. And for the young founders, it's unreasonable. And so we were thinking of creating this kind of platform or ecosystem, or something that our startups can come on and start building right away without needing to hire developers. So this is how it all started. But then I'm on our 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃s crowd. I met my future co-founders, Kevin Liu and Yuan Su. So they were already working on the idea of the platform also, so they could aggregate the startups and make DAOs out of them, and include no-code possibility for them to start their business on the blockchain. So this is the idea that was floating around, and they were working on it. So I joined them. They asked me to join because our kind of like interests crisscross, right? So while we were, thinking and developing, of course, on the Ethereum on Layer 1, and we love Ethereum and we love Ethereum ecosystem, and that's how we started, and we wanted to be on Ethereum on the first place. But yes, of course, transaction fees and the speed of the transaction is like, it was not practical to use. So we were thinking about Layer 2s, and we start looking at the Layer 2s that we could, get on and do our journey. And at that moment, we could not find any that would fit our metrics of the scalability and the decentralization. So that's why we decided to build our own, but the code base we took from the Optimism. And thank you so much, Optimism team, because that's, without you, so we couldn't, like, if we were starting from the ground zero, it would take us like way longer. So we took the base code and we modernized it, we adjusted it, we made it more scalable with a multi-chain, multi-VM as well, so that not all the projects would be on the same chain, but they would share many chains, and also make it more decentralized, having multiple sequencers instead of one. And also because we believed in optimistic rollup, and we didn't want to do any side chain, anything like that, because of the security of the Ethereum. Still a side chain, it is, you're compromising your money, you're compromising to the 51% attack, right? So as in the optimistic rollup, for example, 51% attack is not like nothing gonna happen with your money. So that's why we chose optimistic rollup, and that's why we moved forward. And on that, so we have the whole vision of the decentralization, because optimistic rollups are still pretty much centralized. But our vision is different, and decentralization is the key, because we wanted to onboard businesses. We wanted businesses to onboard themselves without any single party to vet them or to help them, and also so they would be able to do their business independently, and also without that much coding, and in a simple infrastructure in the interface. So this is all our key points that we are moving forward. We are implementing. We're also implementing the decentralized storage. But in the end of the day, so when we launched 8 weeks ago, because we had kind of like projects are flooding to us. So and you see in the reports, for example, that our TVL grows by the day, so it was possible because this independent projects launched, like for example NetSwap launched on top of Metis, and you used NetSwap, so you know what it is. Yes, we also went multi-chain, so bridges came to Metis network really fast, connecting us to other networks, which is pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. And at the same time, so the network is already usable, so we continue building all our vision, but at the same time, it's already used by projects. We have now tons of projects, over 100 on top of chain, and they are not like in just the projects and sitting and doing it. They are actual, projects producing all the good stuff for DeFi community. So and
they're coming for that builder's fee, and we'll touch on that briefly
yes
in a bit. However, you made a good point with regards to the launch being just about 2 months ago. It'll be a little longer than that when this actually goes live, but it's been a crazy growth. And like the way that I've seen these ecosystems grow and start, like I've been on the ground floor of Avalanche and Phantom when they were just babies, and then I've seen them blow up and more and more. And it's kind of a similar transition with layer 2s is you get some sort of ecosystem fund or development, you get a DEX, right? Then you get more DEXs, right? And then you kind of grow into other types of protocols. You get a stable swap, a lending protocol, you get NFTs, and all of a sudden things just start stacking up on each other. And then you have like your own full-blown ecosystem that is native to your chain and to in this case in your rollup. So it seems like the Metis ecosystem is kind of at like stage 2 or so, where you guys have your DEXs, you have an NFT marketplace that you can go use, and you've got some other type of interesting primitives. Like I think there's there's an OHM fork on there now. There's some other cool protocols and products, but I'm kind of curious what you see the development of these apps coming in like the next 3 months, like in terms of lending protocols, stable swap protocols, other primitives, what you kind of see coming for users in the next few months.
So with the lending protocols, of course, we're looking, and there are lots of protocols that come in onto our chain, onto our optimistic rollup, without even asking us, right? So we just one day we find out they're there, but some of them we are, kind of approaching and strategizing. So we had a meeting last week with 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃 𝗵𝗃 from 𝗵𝗲𝗶𝗰𝗵. So we were developing a strategy on how it is better to onboard the 𝗵𝗲 protocol projects on Metis, and how, strategize, help them to create a value proposition, the better value proposition for their users. And so right now we're working with 𝗵𝗲 team on that. So it's in the plans. We also, of course, we help in the projects that we think are going to, shine and create a great value for our community. So the projects that are coming to our network, we're watching really closely, and then the ones that we think is, they're great, and they're great for the value proposition. So we help them with the marketing, with the financing them. So this is all exists as well. So yes, the lending protocols projects are coming. So the oracles right now, we have the DIA Oracle and Witnet oracles also on top of Metis. So we're working with Chainlink to come on Metis as well. Yes, so right now all the protocols that going to support future business. So this we're working on them to come to Metis, and of course also developing and helping developing the projects like Dexys and NetSwap, for example. They are releasing their own launchpad, so that is going to be big. And yes, of course, we going to help. So, and yes, if you guys are thinking of moving your project to Metis, certainly you can reach out to us. We have metis.io/EDP. So this is the page for our ecosystem development program. Please come apply, and our BizDev team will connect to you, and we will see how we can help.
Yeah, beautiful, awesome. And I think it's going to be super, super practical for a lot of what's now named OG DeFi 1.0 to really start to move on to all of these rollups, because some of them, like Aave and Curve, were like super stoked to get onto Avalanche and stoked to get onto other alternative layer ones, but a lot of the kind of OGs were like, we're Ethereum focused only, and we respect the Ethereum compatibility in the EVM, but we are basically waiting for rollups. And so I think you guys will likely see a flock of these kind of OG DeFi protocols that have that kind of brand name and Lindy effect more so than kind of these more newer and native apps on these alternative chains kind of flock over to you guys and to other rollups as well. So I'm excited for that development, being able to use some of these OG protocols that I once used in early 2020, and it costed me $3 or $4 to use them, and it was great. Now they're just a little bit out of hand. So definitely excited to see that grow and develop. And I think with y'all, since you guys have a token already, the incentives are a lot easier to kind of get users there, and also to basically convince projects to come work with you. So I would like to get into the Builders Fund, but briefly, kind of a question about y'all's competitive advantage with regards to other rollups currently and other layer twos, because you have a token. So talk to us about kind of being the leader in terms of tokenizing rollups, and what kind of what drove you guys to make that call, and what advantages you guys have seen so far.
Yes, the reason behind getting the token and creating the token, it's the whole ecosystem development, right? So with that mechanism, it allows us to help other projects to finance, right? So because this token, just a disclaimer for the initial for our development funding, and for the team, it's like very, very small percentage of the tokens that we allocated, right? So it's kind of 4%, and then everything else is decentralizedly produced, and also it's distributed to the community, right? So and then it allow us to again to incentivize projects to build better ecosystem. So token will attract projects, and then we can build better ecosystem. from the very beginning, this project was meant to be an ecosystem, and we thought strategically that it's going to be, this way forward for us. Otherwise, if we just infrastructure project, if we just provide infrastructure, it's it's really hard from the business perspective to move forward. Of course, when we create a new thing, everybody jump on it, but there will be other great and new things, right? So, and then yes, we had to have this competitive advantage, and we do have it right now. And the projects that are coming on Metis and then using Metis tokens also help tremendously as well. And there are more and more of them are growing. But of course, the Metis token utility, the main utility is to use to pay for the gas fees, right? So, and with that as well, what we can do, and this is what we're doing, a very cool thing with the project. So we offer in this builder mining. So for the projects that are coming on to Metis, so we have the application form on metis.io/ADP. So this is something that we can set up, that 30% of the transaction fee are going to get kicked back to the project, so therefore the project get financed from it, right? So that is kind of huge benefit, and we didn't even put an end date on it. So, but we have the decentralization in our roadmap. So we imagine in the future it will be handled by, it's probably a DAO, like all the governance and which projects are going to get this builder mining, which projects. So it's going to be regulated more with the DAO. So right now, lots of projects receiving this benefit and start, with every transaction, they actually make money on Metis. So, and that's unbeatable.
Yeah, and is that, so if there's a transaction on NetSwap, and obviously you guys can tell because of the contracts, does that gas fee get split up amongst all of the qualified projects on Metis? Or does that gas fee just go to NetSwap? And then if it just happened on 𝗵𝗏𝗍, does that just go to 𝗵𝗏𝗍, or does that also go to the qualified projects?
It's attached to the smart contract. So if the smart contract makes transaction, the smart contract gets the money, right? So that's yes. So yes, if your smart contract makes transactions, and then probably, I don't know if it's if I maybe run, but it also can run on top of NetSwap, use the NetSwap smart contract. It means that NetSwap also gets the kickback, and that project gets kickback as well.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So I can't just go deploy 10
Yeah.
smart contracts on Metis, call it a project, and then get a bunch of kickback.
You know what? Yes, if you are producing transactions,
Then
why
you can,
not?
right? Yes.
Yes,
yes,
of course. Yeah, like you get your smart contract on if it's producing transactions all the time. Why not?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good incentive on top of whatever grant or emissions otherwise that can be allowed. So quite the program, and I'm sure the NetSwap team is loving that. Kind of switching gears here to what the kind of roll-up infrastructure and landscape looks like. Curious what your thoughts are on the overall development of optimistic rollups. Kind of if there's been any breakthroughs recently that y'all have seen. I believe Optimism tweeted out the other day that they saw a 30% increase in speeds or something. So perhaps you have some insight onto some of the recent breakthroughs with optimistic rollups.
Yes, so the development is going, right? So the fees will be lower, speed will be higher. So that's, and then you see every day. So yes, yesterday Optimism team tweeted, I loved it, I retweeted it. Yes, so the fees are lower, the speed is higher, and yes, it's way to go. So something that we are developing in that regard, we are developing a decentralized storage, which allows us to roll in more transactions. So hundreds of thousands of transactions can be rolled up in one batch, and therefore the fees will. So we estimate the fees can go up to 2 cents. So this as low as they can go, and yeah, right now it's a couple of dollars, right? So it's Optimism, it's even like $1 and something on the Optimism network. Yeah, so it's has the potential to go towards a cent. And in this case, optimistic rollups going to be kind of like faster, more secure than, for example, side chains, right? So there's no, and that's where the way that we go in. And also with the decentralized storage that we're developing, we want to make it available for people to store their data on chain, because right now, you know, that any, you know, NFTs, anything, they all stored off chain, like all these images, they are not on the blockchain actually, right? So they are stored as a hashes, but the real picture is, of course, somewhere else on somebody else's server, which is kind of not cool, because we're claiming that, you know, these are uniques and so on and so forth. So with the decentralized storage developed and to be able to store data on chain, so it become native pictures that are native NFTs that are stored on top of chain and cannot be changed.
Yeah.
So this is something cool that we are developing. And again, Rollups is technology constantly changing, and we also all, you know, we share in the code between each other, right? So this is not as much like, this is not a competition.
No, not at all.
And you know, I don't believe in competition. So yes, I believe in like in a very, you know, open way, and this is the way to move the whole industry forward, because at the end of the day, we're going towards the common goal to, you know, well, at least my goal that I find common with the others, to have blockchain implemented for the whole world, for, you know, for the enterprise companies, how we call them, Web2. They don't know that we call them Web2, by the way, because we're now talking to lots of Web2 companies. None of them knew that they are Web2. Yes,
but yeah,
but yes,
it's a common goal.
This is common goal.
Yes.
This is optimal goal. Like mass adoption is our common goal.
Yes.
And
but
the
you know, the like, you know, if Arbitrum launches a token because Metis already launched a token because they want to see more development in their ecosystem, it's almost like we play a game of catch up here with protocols and builders and trying to grow and almost beat one another in terms of KPIs and metrics, but it's all really towards the common goal. And I think keeping that Ethereum ecosystem ethos in mind, which I've honestly, and I hate to admit it, I've kind of gotten away from the Ethereum decentralization mindset as these yields and faster chains have popped up. So thank goodness that y'all's chain has come around and been great, because the finality on Metis is insane. Let's get into that. So out of, like, I've probably done 10 chains up to this point, every alternative layer one you can think of. I'm on all the rollups, and nothing even comes close to how quick the Metis transactions go through and how quickly you can basically do things on chain in seconds. So talk to us about kind of your finality and why it's so good.
Yes, we have a great science team and a great development team as well. So our CTO, he's a kind of like a genius. So he started programming at age 6, right? So he was the one that initially developed this, you know, the Hyperledger for IBM. So that's the, you know, the caliber of the person that we're talking about. So, and yes, and we also have a team of the scientists, of course, because it's all, you know, it's all math inside of it. So how it all works, how it all rolls up, and it's also it's all research and development. So there's nothing. We are like on a very, very like breakthrough technology. So nobody before us developed it, right? So even though we took, you know, Optimism code and we adjusted it, so all the underlying things that's, you know, that infrastructure that we're producing, it's all really, really like bleeding edge new. And yes, our end game, of course, we and again, it's not competition, but so we aim to produce the quality of the network, you know, of the security, of the transaction speed, of the transaction cost that is going to be usable for the Web2 world. So this is our end, like kind of like end goal. So for the Web2 world, for enterprise world, that's how they like us to call them. For the enterprise world, and right now in the talks about them, because before we get to that level, you know, fast speed, cheap transactions, you cannot even talk about that with them because, you know, it's yes, they will not take us
Yeah, no,
seriously,
like
right? So yeah, of course,
they
like
come on
being,
Ethereum right now and they're like, all right, guys, you
yeah,
guys
yeah,
got some work to
exactly.
do here.
Yes, yeah. Yesterday we had a meeting with one of the gaming companies, right? So, and then of course, like for them, you know, if you're showing them, you know, Decentraland, it's cool. Like for me, it's really, really cool. But for them, it's like, oh, it's lagging. Oh,
Yeah,
it's right.
yeah,
So it's kind of different perspective because we know the underlying technology is really cool. It's all decentralized. You
yeah.
know, there's no this big gaming company behind it. But for them, it's like they looking from the other perspective. Yeah, so we need to get onto that level, and that's where we are going. And again, this is not a competition for us. It's for us. It's just the way to, you know, to develop this. Very usable technology so that the others who are not familiar with blockchain can use it.
Yeah, yeah, and
Mhm.
I agree. And as these games and as these applications grow, you start to get some growing pains in terms of users and transactions per second, and the chain getting clogged. And we've seen a lot of these on the alternative layer ones, which have more of a monolithic blockchain kind of setup where all of the data availability and execution and settlement all happen on one chain. So when you get, as Avalanche and Phantom, for example, two of my probably best, alternative layer one comparisons have grown, we've started to see two things happen, which is first, fees have gotten slightly more expensive, even though Avalanche and Phantom have both implemented their own programs to kind of bring them down. And so in terms of the amount of gas you have to put a transaction through, like I remember on Avalanche, it was in the tens or less than 9 or 8 𝗋. Now it's consistently above like 30, and Phantom was in like the hundreds or 200 𝗋. Now it's at like 800 or 900 𝗋. And things are still running quite smooth, but ultimately the monolithic kind of structure slows down the overall throughput and user growth that can happen over time. However, my understanding of rollups, which please correct me if I'm wrong, is that over time, as more people come on and more transactions happen, it actually becomes faster and cheaper. So I know that applies to ZK rollups. Is that the case with optimistic rollups as well? And kind of explain how that kind of works, please.
Yes, optimistic rollups, more transaction you're able to roll into the batch, it's cheaper it is. But there's also this question of the scalability on how these transactions getting processed, because more transactions gonna come, they all gonna wait in a one line, right? So, and then also we saw some of the optimistic rollups go down. Right, so sometimes like even for a day, because they get overloaded. So that's why this, thinking through and then building into the infrastructure to scale it. Like for example, we reached it with the multi-chain, multi-VM. So the chain created on demand as the load increases. So that kind of stuff needs to be kind of like built in and thought through, right? So from the very beginning, what I found, because I also came from the enterprise world, and I worked in software development my whole life before that, but I see that projects that are right now in the space, they are probably they very genius, but they are pretty young in terms of the enterprise mindset. So yeah, it's like once they probably don't think it through from the very beginning, right? So, and it's hard, right? So they jump, and I know this space is quick and you have to do it right away, otherwise what if bear market comes? Yes, and this kind of things that in the future, it's like, yes, what happens if you have hundreds of millions transactions in a second, right? So yes, like will your network stand then? And like all this needs to be calculated, tested, thought through, architected from the very beginning. And this is the challenge. With the layer ones, there are lots of now that is, I'm a multi-chain person, right? So I love Ethereum. I love Ethereum ecosystem. I love Ethereum because of its decentralized nature. So that's what I value. That's what I value the most. I think the blockchain itself, its value in a decentralization. if you start sacrificing decentralization for the speed and the cost, well, you might as well use the database, right? So like, what's bad about SQL Server? You can put all this application to the SQL Server because it's the same thing, right? And it's faster and it's cheaper, right? So, and if it's in the blockchain, it has to make sense to run it in the blockchain, because blockchain means decentralization. If the blockchain is not decentralized, to me, it doesn't make sense. I can still use it, and people are, their project, they put in projects on it. They are, but they always have to keep in mind, and I always keep it in mind, like, what happens if this chain get compromised? What happens? Who is key holders to all the funds, all the private keys of this chain? Who is controlling it? One day, maybe they will be held at the gunpoint. And this is, our money just comes to that stupid reason, right? So on this, yes, the decentralization, you cannot beat it, right? So you cannot destroy it. Like when you see Russia proposes ban and use the Bitcoin, well, who cares? Because they cannot propose any ban because this is a decentralized system. They have no control over it. What if, they would have control, like if the Bitcoin was centralized? They could go to Satoshi Nakamoto and say, you know what, we're going to kill you. Am I allowed to say it on the podcast? Yeah, and then, yeah, so that would work, right? So there would be no more Bitcoin. Yes, yes, so for me, again, decentralization, but together with thinking through the whole architecture, thinking through what it's going to be, when it's going to be, like millions of the transactions in. So that's the main point, and that's what we are also, thinking it through.
Yeah, and I mean, that ethos is strong. And again, like I said, even for me and many others have kind of lost that over the last 6 months in the hunt for better yields and kind of the profit mentality, which I think has been a really cool experiment. But as you've explained, with the longer term thought process with regards to the technology of Rollups and how kind of it basically gets better as it grows, it's frankly unbeatable. I think there will always be a position for these smaller node count layer ones to grow. They will all probably have their own niche markets. But yeah, I think we'll really see the Ethereum community rally around the idea of rollups, because I think it's something that we can onboard. Like you're saying, 10 million transactions a second onto across a few rollups, and it could actually hang. And so that's something that we're really excited about to see, and kind of grow that development. Because frankly, on Metis right now, the transaction fees are certainly not the cheapest of other alternative solutions, but the finality you can see is just insane, and there's never a lag. And so I can only imagine what we can get when we have 100,000 users on Metis, and we're pushing just fees under 50 cents or under 10 cents with that sort of user experience. It would really make you wonder why you would have your funds anywhere else that doesn't have the security and decentralization of Ethereum combined with the speeds, as you're saying. So super exciting to see that play out, just stoked to kind of see the growth overall of Rollups. Now let's kind of switch over to what Arbitrum is doing. I'm curious your thoughts on their development so far. Again, it's not competition, so we appreciate positive word. And I'm curious what you kind of think with regards to other layer twos out there as well. We can go into bridges or infrastructure, and eventually layer two to layer two kind of talking to each other is a future that I see. So anything like that with regards to Arbitrum or kind of layer two communication.
Well, Arbitrum, you see from the probably going to call it the TVL, we have certain KPIs to measure, like at least we don't call it success, but at least measure our progress, right? So Arbitrum is right now is probably the champion in the TVL. So they were able to build the ecosystem and unload the projects that are created that's huge TVL, which is I love them. I love our all layer twos because we all gonna go to the common goal, and we're all gonna go into the common goal. And I am going to eat Denver, and I know that there will be handling the transactions for the food, right? So all the food transactions going to be handled on Arbitrum. Okay, so this is the last thing I heard. Maybe it's some
That's the alpha,
information
the
that I'm
Denver alpha.
not supposed to. Yes.
I'll see you there.
And yes, I would like to see how it actually practically works, right? So, and I know that in Denver, I'm on the board, the Spork DAO, and there's a little bit. Maybe worries like how people going to handle, what if it doesn't work, what if the transaction doesn't go through, and so they ask Arbitrum to put the help desk here and there as like people that will be helping people. So yes, this is what I heard, and this is what the last thing that I know, that our Arbitrum will be handling all these transactions, and we'll be putting people like help desk people. And what is not perfect in this process, actually, I think it's really cool that we're doing that it's like transactions that people going to see like how it works on layer 2. What is not probably perfect, then that's the help desk. Decentralization should not be any help desk. So I yet to see how it happened. Maybe there will be no issues and no help desk needed. So and the second, the transaction fees, and as you say that transaction fees like on optimistic rollups is not right now not as low as we wish them to be. So these fees had to be covered. So Arbitrum actually had to cover these fees out of the pocket, right? So then that's it's a huge in blockchain space, not huge.
It's like an expense, though. It's like
but I heard from the kind of like from the board people, the ones that on the Denver, they say, well, it just doesn't make sense to pay that much money for the transaction fees. Like, why do we do it? Why don't we just use Visa? So that's kind of like, the you see that it's like, it's really cool for us, but it's not usable to the outside world just yet. But, they're the champions right now. They're doing like really cool stuff. And I would like to see them in Denver, everything goes smoothly. And I would like to watch, and I'm going to use Arbitrum as well then. Yes, but again, our common goal, we're going to make it cheaper, faster, and of course, more usable. And we're all going to get there at the end. If we didn't get there, it's not the end yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the issue of like it gets cheaper and more usable for something like the Visa network or a lot of users. But like if they would all just come, then it would be cheaper and pretty much ready to use. But like the problem is they're not here yet because it's not cheap. So it's like,
yes,
you guys got to come and you'll make it cheaper. And until you come and bring all your friends, then it's not going to be cheaper. So so it's an interesting
chicken and egg.
Chicken and egg, exactly.
Yes,
but so it's an interesting dilemma, but it's a good one to have, knowing that the tech, is getting there. And it's been interesting to see how quickly, certain sectors of the market just blew up, and that the infrastructure was like not really like truly ready yet. Like OpenSea handling all these NFTs, like wow, the whole world just found out that Ethereum was expensive as hell, and that OpenSea goes down and is buggy and is a Web 2-esque company, right? And so like, there's certain parts of the market where we're seeing growth be unparalleled, and like now we're seeing the ideas of NFTs, of layer 2s, of layer 1s be validated, which is good for builders, but now they're on catch-up mode, just trying to maintain the growth. So it's been good for the validation of the ecosystem, but now we're playing like, okay, like let's catch up to what the people want.
Well, yeah, and you can see it from the leaders of the projects, how busy they are, right? So because like we are in such a tremendous growth that it's, for example, with Alex Atalan on OpenSea, I would have meetings, every week before that when he was explaining me how the OpenSea works and this and that. But now, I sent him an email. He said like, Elena, I don't have intent to respond on the email, right? So that's and then I see like all the founders, right? So Stani and like they all get really, 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 really busy because, of course, we probably were not ready and prepared for such a big growth of all these companies, and it's going to be only getting worse. So that's why it's for the leaders, we need to think through the whole scalability of the team, of the system, of we would not be overloaded, our people are not overloaded. So it's another task that we're doing behind the scenes. It's not only the technology that we're building, it's also the kind of support team of these technologies as well.
And I've seen in the past criticism for some of the early stage founders who have, it's an assumption, have done very well for themselves off their token, off their protocols, and being early to the ecosystem, now being lazy and being criticized for not working and building. But, kind of my take on this is, no matter how wealthy or how long you've been in the space, like once you get to a certain point, it's very much so less, what can crypto do for me, and like what can I do for crypto, and what can I do for DeFi? And I think a lot of builders are kind of faced with this at a certain time. And I think based off what you're saying, it's fair to assume that a lot of builders are in it for much more than just the amount of tokens, which is just a number on a screen. It's really like, what can I do to build this long term and validate my career almost, because it really becomes an identity thing at a certain point, right? It's like, okay, surely I've got these tokens and I've got all these friends online and we're doing well, but if this all goes to hell, then well, what am I going to do with my life? Right, so it becomes like an identity thing and an emotional attachment more so than the amount of numbers on a screen that you can run up. And I think that's kind of the push that a lot of builders have to really want to keep growing. And I'm curious, kind of any development that you've had throughout your career so far as a builder in Web3, kind of any mindset shifts or realizations or things that have kept you on track and kept you to wanting to keep creating and building out this ecosystem.
Yeah, so it's a very good question, Andy, because all the founders that you see right now that are still working in the space, they're not in there for money. Otherwise, they would not be here anymore, because they all right now wealthy and rich, right? So then they would quit. But the fact that they're still there, that their projects are still running, and yes, I know, a little bit of the inside information for the founder's life. Yes, so their life is becoming harder and harder and harder, because it's a lot of pressure. It's also a lot of responsibility. You're not only responsible for your protocol, but you're responsible for your team that you build, right? So that look up to you, right? And then for some founders, it's, hundreds of people that are, believing in them. And yes, it becomes kind of like a life, becomes a life. Right. So, and this is like, it's not about money. It's the people that are getting into it, they're not getting it because of money. Otherwise, they would not make money. People who are in there for money, they actually, lose money at the end. So that's, that is a rule. And yes, the life of the founders are not easy, because they also right now under the scrutiny of the public, right? And all this, opinions that you can hear on Twitter. And Twitter, people are not forgiven.
Twitter is a madhouse. It is an absolute madhouse.
Right. So, and then yes, for some, of course, like we as a founders, we needed to develop kind of like a thick skin and see through, some, comments, like comments that you're reading, especially the negative one. At the end of the day, it's people that are unhappy, right? So they're just expressing how unhappy they are. They just need some love. And that's, yes. So it's nothing to do, with the founder that they're attacking. Right? So, and then, so we can see that, and we can see like, when, and I can feel for those people as well, right? So, and then I help as many as I can. But the founder's life is, not easy in that way, and it's not about money, and none of the money can buy this kind of like the way that we have our worlds built, the team built, like everything around us, like none of the money could buy it. And none of the money actually worth it as well, right? So it's much, 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 much bigger than that.
Yeah, and the responsibility, Elena, is just got to be massive. Like, I envision myself in my career so far has been just to learn as much as I can, to soak up just as much information, connections, and grow and all this. And I eventually want to launch a protocol probably in the Ethereum scaling space in the next few years, on Rollups, just something that can be huge. And I've just talked to so many people, and a lot of them have honestly said, like, yeah, just hang out in the community, man. It's a lot more fun and a lot less stress. And I mean, the responsibility of other people's financial well-being when it comes to them owning a token, which your team is building, is, I mean, it can definitely be stressful. And you know, we obviously applaud all builders, especially you being a woman builder in crypto, which I'd love to kind of touch on how you feel about the growth of women in crypto, and kind of what the Metis vision is to onboard more women into crypto.
Oh, thank you for that question. Yes, so yeah, I usually don't want to kind of like divide men and women. We're all doing the same, but yes, of course, there is certain flavor to the women in that space, and women are different from men. Men are different from women. From my experience, it's really good to have the balanced team. So when you have your men and women like 50-50, something like that. I love hiring women. We're hiring lots and lots and lots of women. They're great. They're awesome, because men always represent, strength and the ego and, going forward. And women is more like, love, and they, well, of course, they're also like, really, really knowledgeable, but at the same time, there's like, love and warmth, like completely different dynamics, right? So, and when you balance these dynamics in the team, it's become a great thing. So what I do with my team as well, of course, I tell them how much I love them every day. And it goes a long way, and it's all true. I love them very much. I cannot, like, if you think that one person, or like even our genius Yuan, our genius Kevin could build or myself, we could build all that, well, you're wrong, because this is our team that's doing that. What we do, we just infect them with the idea. So that's what we do. And again, like, if you're thinking about going and founding your own project, doing your own protocol, so this is a big responsibility. There will be no going back, right? So once you're there, you cannot back off and say like, oh, guys, I tried that, it didn't work. Well, because it's probably not gonna be good experience.
It's on the chain forever. It's there forever. Yeah, exactly, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Whatever on the chain is on the chain. Yes, but yeah, in terms of the women, like when you found your project, when you found your protocol, consider having women in your founding team, because that's going to help. That's going to counterbalance a little bit of the egos and the powers that guys have, because we see in the projects that when they founded initially. Some of them actually split up. The founders split up. Teams break out because, if you have this, testosterone dynamics all the time, I think it's like at some point, there's some breaking point to it. And women are going to, make it better.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that development with women NFTs, or NFT projects based around women have been blowing up recently. I know World of Women, that NFT collection has gone from like 1 ETH floor to like almost 9 or something. I think it's just going to keep going in terms of price, but yeah, it's just an overall growth metric. And I think a lot of the reason male dominated is because, well, males are gamblers and risk takers almost, and women kind of catch on a little bit after men do in terms of those qualities, which, as you're saying, it's quite the balance when they come together. I mean, that's what kind of the whole world of nature is all about now. Don't take my relationship advice, I'm 22, but at the end of the day, yeah, the balance is the balance, and we love to see that growth here, and it's awesome to be a woman builder and be here in crypto. So thank you for that. And as we kind of wrap up here, we just have a question that we ask a lot of our guests. I'd like to ask you, which is, if you had to elevator pitch one person in the entire world on Metis, who would it be and why?
Ooh, let's see. I don't even know. Okay, so for some reason Jeff Bezos came to mind, so maybe him. And the second one, I think Microsoft came to mind as well. So that's yeah, I think I don't need to pitch it to Elon Musk because he's pretty knowledgeable.
That would be going big right there. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk at the same time. That would be quite the pitch.
Yeah.
You better have that tech ready before you get in that room, or else you're not going to come out happy.
Well, tech is never ready. Tech is always work in progress.
That's right.
Elevator pitch I would do without even the tech ready, because
Yeah.
once the tech will be ready, when they will be ready, our tech will be ready.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much, Elena, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure, and I know our audience got a lot out of this, and props to the build, and looking forward to see what's coming in Layer 2 summer is the narrative, so excited for that.
Thank you, Andy.
Cheers.